1, 2, the cut down. We are going to be talking about the Australian company Blackmagic Design with a very unexpected, but I feel like much needed announcement of the Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro. And you know, when you throw Pro in there, you got to back it up in some capacity. So we're going to break down what makes this Pocket 6K, Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro. Now that they've added Pro, what allows it to be called Pro? Ah, man, very left field. I did not expect them to push this out. I was actually expecting a different camera, which we'll talk about. I was not expecting them to push this out at all. Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera, next generation for handheld digital cameras. So large 5-inch LCD displays, SD-C fast media, external USB-C media recording, which is great, EF, MFT, micro four thirds mounts, more DaVinci Resolve Studio, editing, color correction, audio post, and visual effects. And yeah, this is the new one. This is the trio, 3 great models. So we had the introduction with, I think this was back in NAB 2018 with the Pocket 4K. Then we had a Pocket 6K, and then now we've got the 6K Pro. Now this is using a micro four thirds mount, micro four thirds sensor, which has a 2x additional crop factor on top of what full frame would be. Then you've got the Super 35, which can range somewhere between 1.7 to 1.5 or sometimes 1.4, depending if you're looking at a wide, large format Super 35 sensor. What I was actually expecting them to do was bring out a full frame Pocket Cinema Camera 8K, 4K, 6K, so 4K micro four thirds, 6K Super 35, then 8K full frame. That's what I was expecting them to bring out. I was not expecting them to bring out a 6K Pro, but this is a very interesting move. It's a very interesting move because what we have here is the Pocket Cinema Camera Pro. So Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K, effectively the same 6144 by 3456 Super 35 sensor with the support for EF glass from Canon. Effectively the same things in there, but now you have the additional Pro features such as built-in 2, 4, and 6 stops of variable and not variable, but ND filters. It's not variable, but you know what I mean. It's straight ND. Now you have an adjustable tilt HDR high dynamic range LCD panel with a brightness of 1500 nits, 1500 nits, which is ideal for bright sunny outdoors. Thank goodness, because I know that was one of the biggest problems. Yes, it's not a fully articulating vari-angle display, but I believe Blackmagic are targeting indie filmmakers and filmmakers that know how to rig this up and be behind the camera. And also includes a much needed improvement to the battery. Now we've gone from the Canon LP6 batteries to the Sony MPF 570s. I wish they used the 900 series, but I believe obviously the grip would have been much bigger. But I don't know how this will be based on the fact that the display at the back is brighter. And you've got the NDs as well, how much the power the NDs take. And obviously you've got the 2 mini XLR inputs that are built into the body. Great stuff. Very easy user interface. You know, all the recording media is the same. Depth, you know, sensor size. You can see the measurement of the sensor size relative to the Super 35 and the 6K image that you're getting. And I believe it shoots up to 6K up to 50 frames a second, and it uses the Blackmagic RAW codec, which Blackmagic RAW, I can't wait till more cameras start supporting this. And you can see, you know, the benefits of having built-in ND. This is going to get into the discussion of how certain cameras that would label themselves as cinema cameras, I believe, do need to have, to a certain extent, built-in NDs. It does make a difference in really separating from what traditional mirrorless hybrid cameras have, and moving into like a dedicated video / cinema camera use. Having built-in ND is a massive benefit. It frees up the type of filters that you can use in front of your camera lens. Dynamic range wise, great. Dual gain ISO for exceptional low light performance. This is something that they had that down. And then you've got multiple resolutions, 24 frames a second in 6K, 50 frames a second, 6K as well. Multiple frame rates, shoot stills, 21 megapixels. Yeah, obviously because that's a 6K resolution, 21.2 megapixels, 50 frames a second, 16:9. If you go 16:9, then it's 60 frames a second at that resolution. Cinema wide, high frame rates if you apply crop in windowed mode. I believe the crop is ×2 or ×4, and it goes up to 120 frames a second in 2.8K, which is the specific resolution right here at 17:9, 2868 by 1512. And you can do true anamorphic as well, which is great. 6:5, de-squeeze it, 3.7, 60 frames a second. Crazy. This is the stuff that you're talking about, right? Recording media rise, you've got UHS-II, CFast Express 2.0. I don't know why they don't move over to CF Express, but I guess CFast 2.0 has been around for a while. I wouldn't even say it's that much cheaper, but hey. And then the full Blackmagic RAW workflow. This is where you're able to shoot in the 6K. I believe for you to be able to benefit from the 6K, you do have to shoot in Blackmagic RAW, which gives you all the latitude of RAW and also the speed and the efficiency of Blackmagic RAW as a single file rather than what you have in Cinema DNG. Easy user interface with the touchscreen, which is now tiltable and it's much brighter. 5" is pretty much the same size as my Atomos Ninja V, and you do have an attachable EVF or OVF. This is amazing. This is amazing. Optional viewfinder for professional shooting. This is genius. I think this is genius how they've been able to add it. So defining factors, we've got professional connections, and the only thing that's missing is a serial digital interface, SDI, lock-in SDI. But you do have everything. You've got 3.5mm mic input, headphone port, full-size HDMI. And I don't know if this is still limited to 1080p. This is one of the things I did not like about the fact that the HDMI, I don't know if it was I don't know what the limitation was, but I believe the HDMI out was limited to 1080p. USB 4, input charging, as well as output recording to something like a Samsung T5 like this. 2 mini XLR inputs, amazing. Really great to see. Move out of the way. 12-volt D-type input, which is great. You can see it there. 4 built-in microphones and professional inputs, which is, I mean, USB recording, direct to external media. This is something that Black. So again, this is everything that we know from the Pocket 6K, exactly the same. But effectively, what we have is you've got the grip, and you see the difference here with the MPF 570 battery slightly bigger. Might balance out to be the same. Maybe it's only going to be given an extra 10 to 15 minutes more recording. DaVinci Resolve with it. They talked about A10 mini, and you do have an astonishing price of $2,495 or pounds, give or take. Let's see how much that translates to in pounds. I'm gonna go all the way down. Wow, under £2,000. Is that with tax? Rotted. £1,879. Whoa. That's crazy. That's crazy good value, considering you're getting the DaVinci Resolve Studio with it as well. Okay, that's nuts. Okay, the Pro EVF. The Pro EVF is expensive though. 425. Yeesh. Great batteries, XLR cables, taps, DC cable. Wow. Let me come back and I'll give my general consensus and my breakdown of what I'm thinking of the Pocket 6K, because it was completely left field. I was caught. I was surprised. Everyone was talking about A10 mini, and you know, they should be announcing another camera, and I didn't think they were gonna announce another camera. I didn't really think they were gonna announce a camera. Then all of a sudden I start seeing on my timeline Pocket 6K Pro. Pocket 6K Pro. I was like, whoa, what's this? And I think this is a needed upgrade. Now, I still don't understand Blackmagic's 2 biggest problems that I can see for me personally. I can't understand why it looks like they're allergic to full frame sensors. I'm not really bothered as much, but with how much full frame is coming up and being developed on, they seem, I don't want to say stuck. Maybe it's a bit unfair to say stuck, but I was expecting a full frame Pocket Cinema camera 8K. Like I said, 4K micro four thirds, 6K Super 35, full frame 8K. 8K is the new buzzword, but I feel like 8K will have a lot of relevance going down the line, me personally speaking for myself. especially with what they did with the Ursa Mini 12K, being able to shoot 12K at 60 frames a second with how it behaves. I was expecting them to utilize a new full frame, non-Bayer pattern based sensor that can do 8K up to 50 frames a second to really showcase that, yeah, well, about that life when it comes to true video. But this is also a good move. Another thing I'm point and concern, and I know this is gonna come from our autofocus is just for photographers and real videographers don't need autofocus. Please be quiet. Go sit somewhere in the corner. You don't depend on autofocus, but it's a clutch additional feature to have. The development companies like Sony and Canon have done to integrate that into the refresh of their cinema line, or for as long as they've been doing it in their cinema line, especially with Canon, and with the refresh of all the FX cinema cameras that are coming out with the implementation of continuous autofocus. It begs like you kind of do have to start considering that. So not having any form of continuous autofocus development, heck, even Red with the Komodo 6K have developed some form of continuous autofocus as a first generation attempt from their side that they're going to develop going on. So it's not a deal breaker depending on the shoot that you are with Blackmagic cameras. So I don't want to get into this rabbit hole, but it's just a point of concern of mine. But apart from that, built-in ND filters. Thank you, Blackmagic. This is such a good look. Built-in ND 2, 4, 6 stops. This is unbelievably, this is such a clutch upgrade. Such a clutch upgrade, not having to deal with NDs and having built-in NDs that are better optimized to work with the sensor. Is at the back of the lens. You don't need to worry about bringing so many different ND filters, step up ring, step up down, and the quality is never going to be the same as built-in NDs. Never going to be the same, ever. Even the most expensive ones. That level of stress being taken away to have built-in NDs really defines and separates it away from your traditional mirrorless hybrid cameras or your wannabe video cameras. This is such a good look. Thank you for also listening and bringing at least a tilt display. Again, at that body size, I keep saying it. Why are more companies just not copying the Panasonic Lumix S1H display? That's all I keep saying. Both great for gimbal and also great for self-shooting. But at least you've improved. You listen to the fact that the brightness wasn't great. As much as the touchscreen and the user interface on your cameras are phenomenal, not being able to have any control over how that screen moves was a bad thing. You've improved it a lot more. Well done. And you've kept the same 5-inch display size at 16:9, which is phenomenal. And also your battery life, which I don't believe is going to be miles better than before, where we're getting over 1 hour on continuous record. But listening with people that maybe potentially bought the grip where they had to use the LPE6 battery for the internal, then use the Sony MPF 570 for the battery grips, it's very confusing. It's very, very confusing. So taking that out the way. Now, Blackmagic Raw. We need more non-linear editing systems to really go across with it. Blackmagic, obviously, you've got DaVinci, as well as Premiere Pro, which I believe now officially supports it, unless it still needs a plugin for Blackmagic Raw and for the Final Cut Pro users, and also other camera manufacturers, because this is I know some people might say it's the poor man's Red Code Red, but I don't believe so. I believe Blackmagic Raw has a level of efficiency and control that we've wanted from Raw, especially with the compression technique, the compression ratios that you can put through to manage your file size to the point where you can record Raw on your SD card and have a lot of latitude with all the things that it showcases, from auto white balance, from your white balance in check, your tint, your ISO, so much control after the fact. But yeah, you can manage your storage size and what media and what medium you're recording to. But this is great. Under £2,000, and then having the ability to add an additional EVF if and when you need it. That level of accessibility is great for when you want to fly it on the gimbal, you want to rig it in a certain way, or you want to go completely handheld. This is a good look. Bar even the concerns, the price is going to make cameras like the C70 shake in its boots. Not because the C70 is a bad cinema camera, no, but things like internal RAW, the battery improvement, and also the screen, the size of it, but mainly because you're shooting that internal RAW with it, and the price to be able to have it so low to rig up and still undercut the price. Yeah, that's a left field move that is shaking up, where it's like, we know our shortcomings, we're going to accept our shortcomings, but what we're also going to do is make it worth your while by giving you outstanding image quality, true cinema grade image quality, true RAW workflow, but with an ease of use that you've not experienced with RAW in a very, very long time, if not at all, and built-in NDs. Might have stolen the thunder of the upcoming Sony FX3 low-key, because from what we've heard, it's going to be missing stuff that's going to make it questionable and suspect. Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro. I believe the Pro is worthy of its name, and in the UK, that's including tax, and it is truly £1,879. Boy, wow, I even want it for no reason. Not for my shooting style completely, maybe for client work, but wow, well done Blackmagic. This looks interesting. Not perfect, but it does look interesting. Those are my thoughts on a Blackmagic Pocket Cinema Camera 6K Pro.